It's headed toward the left field corner. And that ball is gone. It's a grand slam.
Welcome to another Valley Sports Plug Arizona Diamondbacks recap for June 6th to June 18th, 2023. I'm Chris Patrick, and with me today, Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman here to break it all down for you. So let's go ahead and get right into it. In the last 2 weeks, the D-backs went 7-4 over 4 matchups. And after this last weekend series, our overall record stood at 43-29, the best in the NL West. That's right, first place in the NL West, baby. And I think it's worth mentioning that the Dodgers have fallen to third place in the division behind the San Francisco Giants. So we'll keep an eye on that one. But for now, let's take a look at how the last 2 weeks broke down for the D-backs. Starting off, we were on the road heading out to the smoky East Coast to take on the Washington Nationals. The D-backs won the first 2 games, getting a pseudo sweep as the third game in the series was postponed due to poor air quality that was caused by the Canada wildfires. The Snakes snuck out of town and continued their road trip, traveling to Michigan to take on the Detroit Tigers. They would get the sweep in that series, winning all 3 games at Comerica Park. Coming off of 5 straight wins on the road, the Diamondbacks came home to take on the Philadelphia Phillies in a 4-game series. And after winning the first game, the Phillies would steal the next 3 at Chase Field. The D-backs now 3-4 in 7 games against the Phillies this season. Not quite what we were looking for there. But our last series of this short home stint saw us taking on the Cleveland Guardians over Father's Day weekend. The D-backs won 2 of the 3 in this series, and unfortunately, the fathers in attendance Sunday were left disappointed as the Guardians were able to slam the door shut on the possible sweep, jumping out to a painful 10-run lead to end the 4th inning. But at least they got a free shirt, so there's always a silver lining. But now let's pass it over to Michael Benjamin for a deeper look at the last 2 weeks.
We start in the nation's capital as Pavin Smith and 4 others drive in 10 runs, dominating the Nationals bullpen in Game 1. Corbin Carroll continues his scorching stretch, scoring 3 times in Game 2. But as Chris stated, Game 3 is postponed due to the wildfires in Canada, and the D-backs take the shortened series in convincing fashion. And we take a short broomstick ride to Detroit and sweep them up, including another solid outing from Merrill Kelly in Game 1, a 5-0 shutout behind homers from Nick Ahmed and Gurriel Jr. in Game 2, and another come-from-behind victory thanks to Christian Walker's double in the top of the 9th. And then we head home for a 4-game stand against the Phillies, and the Diamondbacks fell off the wagon a bit. They did take Game 1 thanks to 4 runs in the 6th, including a 3-run homer by Evan Longoria, but the 6-game winning streak came to an end as Zach Davies and the bullpen are shelled in Game 2. Scott McGuff gives up a sac fly in the 10th in Game 3, and Aaron Nola barely outduels Ryan Nelson in the series finale. But the Snakes catch a break to start against the Guardians, as guess who? Zach Gallen gives a dominant effort through 7 in Game 1. The Bats are juiced in Game 2 behind 4 home runs, including all 3 players of this recap. But unfortunately, we do drop the final game with Zach Davies once again getting smashed early. But 7-4 over the last 2 weeks, good tidings are here. The Diamondbacks find themselves 3.5 games in front in the NL West. We have a couple of guys who are starting to garner some attention in regard to the Cy Young and the NL MVP races as well. We know it's early, but we're loving it right now as Arizona Diamondbacks fans. So with that being said, I'll pass it over to Tallman so he can let us know what he's been seeing over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, guys, another good stretch of baseball. We get to sit here again and talk about how they've had a winning record over the last 2 weeks. I mean, that crowd on Father's Day, 42,000 fans in attendance, which is outrageous. It's almost like, how are we going to figure out how we can give away more free stuff to bring people in? But don't worry, the bandwagon's going to start soon. There's a lot of room still left on there, so get ready. Let's get these people on the wagon, get people out to the park. But that was really nice to see. I mean, that's an abnormally large crowd. I mean, 42,000. I can't remember what it was when we went to that Braves game to get the free hat. I just saw that number, and that was awesome to see. But I'm going to start it off again with the pitching here on a positive note, because I feel like I'm always so negative about pitching when we get together to talk about this stuff. But hey, Merrill Kelly has 9 wins. Zach Gallen looking at 8 wins. We could sit here and say we have 2 of the best pitchers in baseball right now. But when we get to that 3 to 5 stretch on the rotation, it gets a little nasty, very inconsistent. Sometimes we've seen just awful performances out of these guys where you've already mentioned it. Zach Davies. I mean, I didn't even want to write down what his ERA was over the last 2 starts, but I think it's 16 and up. So I'm going to say it again. This trade deadline needs to come now, right? Because we need to add something big in that starting rotation and to really jumpstart us into the second half of the season. Right now with Ryan Nelson and Tommy Henry, it's really not looking like we're in good hands once we hit those back positions on the rotation. That being said, with Zach Davies being so poor the last 2 starts, I mean, I don't know if he's going to get another opportunity. Of course he might because he's a veteran. But when has it come the time where we need to give him the Madison Bumgarner treatment? Not saying let's just get rid of him outright, but I mean, we're on such a great run right now that we can't afford to lose these games. And if he's not going to continue to put out in a positive manner for this team, maybe we need to explore other options. But I'll pass it back to you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Tallman. I 100% agree with everything you said there. And we can't stress enough how badly we need to bolster this pitching staff, not only in the starting rotation, but also in the bullpen. They haven't had very many save opportunities, but I think Andrew Chafin has the most saves for the team with 8, and Miguel Castro has 7. Just not a lot of opportunities. I'll repeat that. But we need a solid guy that we can rely on out of the bullpen because we've taken a couple losses that could have gone the other way had we had a better arm coming out. But to expand on the starting rotation, you're absolutely right. We need 1, maybe 2 more guys if we can, because the last 3 guys in the rotation are just a giant question mark, and you never really know what you're going to get out of them week in and week out. But again, I don't want to sound like a broken record. As I've said on these recaps, these Diamondbacks are absolutely exceeding the expectations we had to start this season. Again, well over 500 for the 2 weeks with a 7-4 record. And I think they're setting new expectations, which honestly, I think we're going to start to want to see this going forward and continuing on in the season as we head towards hopefully winning and competing for a pennant. But I think it all starts with shoring up this pitching staff. Mike Hazen has said he'll be aggressive at the trade deadline, so I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to see what happens there. But just to deep dive and take a quick little bit of a look at the stats in the last 2 weeks to give you an idea of how these boys are doing. Ketel Marte in the last 2 weeks with an average of 359, 13 hits, 1 home run, 5 RBIs, and 15 runs scored. Absolutely killing it, staying red hot. But a guy that hasn't been staying so hot is Lourdes Gurriel Jr. His average in the last 2 weeks, 128 with only 4 hits, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. Emmanuel Rivera, again, staying solid in that designated hitter position, an average of 262, 10 hits, 6 RBIs, and 8 runs scored. And unfortunately, our boy Josh Rojas, who was just sent down to AAA Reno, a dismal 190 average with 4 hits, 3 RBIs, and 2 runs. Granted, that was only in 9 games, but it seems like we're a bit crowded there at third with Rivera and Longoria also filling out spots in that rotation. Like you guys have mentioned, Gallen and Kelly are 2 aces right now. They were both 1-0 in their 2 starts respectively in the last 2 weeks. And Ryan Nelson 1 of 1 in his 2 starts. So is he going to be that third guy? Is he going to stay in the rotation? Or as Torey Lovullo was hinting, he doesn't know on a week-to-week basis if he's going to make his next start or if they're going to try and make a move. I'll be eager to see that. But for now, I want to pass it over to Mike so he can let us know who his player of the recap is.
We've said it before, and I'll say it again. We wouldn't be surprised if this man finds himself as one of our players of the recap each time we reconvene. And once again, I'm going back to back. It's Mr. Corbin Carroll. Over the past 2 weeks, he's hitting 383, 18 hits, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs, 15 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, and a partridge in a pear tree. I mean, everything this kid is doing is a gift for this Diamondbacks franchise right now. And Chris gave us a tidbit of information stating that DraftKings has now placed Corbin Carroll as 3rd overall for possible MVP in the NL. Crazy to think that this kid is already making so much of an impact so early within his career with this team. But I'm not going to bore you with more stuff about Corbin Carroll. We just know that he's a stud at this point, so I had to go with him again. So Tallman, I went with Carroll. Who are you taking this week for your player of the recap?
Yeah, great pick you got there. I think you chose the easy route there, Mr. Benjamin. His contract's really looking like it's starting to pay off. My goodness. But you guys know me. I like to give love to the guys that, don't get love all the time from us. I'm out here picking Dominic Fletcher, and then he gets sent down to Reno 2 days later. We're going to give some love to Jake McCarthy this week on this recap. His numbers aren't going to jump out at you, but he's making some impact right now. He's had 13 hits, 8 runs scored. What's really sticking out to me is those stolen bases. So he had 6 stolen bases the last 2 weeks. Since coming back, I think he came back at the end of May. He's hitting over 300. He's stolen 12 bases. Right now, he's second on the team in stolen bases behind, of course, Mr. Corbin Carroll. But he's sitting there with 14 stolen bases right now. And that speed is just, it's right there with Carroll's. On the base pass, he's dangerous. He's been aggressive. And then, of course, running out there in outfield. I mean, the guy's got stellar speed all around the diamond. So we're going to give him some love this week for my pick.
Carroll, McCarthy, all solid options. Of course, like Michael Benjamin said, we could all pick Corbin Carroll every single recap, just about, it seems like. But the guy I had to go with is Mr. Christian Walker, Texas Ranger. Christian Skywalker. Walker, Junior Bacon, Triple Walker. He is getting it done, son. In the past 2 weeks, he's batting an average of 346, 18 hits, 3 dingers, and 13 RBIs. Just absolutely incredible. I think if we go back 2 weeks, I was talking about how a month ago he was kind of struggling a little bit, saw a little bit of a dip in his stats, but he's able to stay the course, trust in himself, and get back on track. And you love to see that. I mean, when you have a reliable first baseman filling the shoes of Paul Goldschmidt, that's a tall task, but I think he's answering the call and doing well, and everything we expect from him. He's probably the second, third best hitter on this team, right up there with Corbin Carroll. Of course, Carroll's Carroll, but I don't want to take anything away from Walker. He is an absolute stud, and I'm excited to see what he can continue doing this season. Which reminds me, you all need to go out and vote for the MLB All-Star Game to make sure we get guys like Corbin Carroll, Christian Walker, and Jake McCarthy maybe even in there. Of course, pitchers, Zach Gallen, those guys are all part of it. But go out there and vote, man. Your vote counts, especially when it comes to the All-Star Game. So make it happen, and let's see some Diamondbacks represented in this year's All-Star Weekend. Let's take a look, though, at the upcoming series we have on our slate. First, we'll head out to Milwaukee to take on the Brewers for a 3-game stretch. Then that makeup game against the Washington Nationals just after that. We're coming back to the West Coast to take on the San Francisco Giants in San Francisco before coming home for a quick 3-game series with the Tampa Bay Rays. Finishing out our slate of the next 2 weeks, we'll head back to California to Los Angeles and take on the Angels and Shohei Ohtani for a 3-game series. We'll keep an eye on that. Keep coming at you guys every 2 weeks with these Diamondbacks recaps. Thank you so much for tuning in. For Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman, I'm Chris Patrick, and we'll see you next time. Peace.